quote you something you said after your release in November of last year. You said, "The narrow-mindedness, the intimidation and the culture of fear have not changed."
Yes.
Is that why you think that Malaysia has to have new political leadership?
What is required is the reform. Whether it takes in the form of new political leadership, a new party, that will be decided by the citizens.
Why then, if the situation is so bad in Malaysia today, and in your view still being, in essence, controlled by Dr. Mahathir, who you've all but accused of criminality on this programme, why then is the current Prime Minister, Abdullah Badawi, running at about 70% popularity in the opinion polls, and why does his party command 90% of the seats in the parliament?
Of what parliament, of what elections? You are talking about free and fair elections that we do not have. You are talking about independent judiciary, a free media. You are talking about elections when there is no access, no media access to the opposition. Not even 10 minutes access to the opposition.
But the point, again, is that you were part of the system for so long. Are the Malaysian public really going to take you seriously when you suddenly turn around and say, this is absolutely anti-democratic, this system is broken, it doesn't work, when in essence it's the same system you were part of for so long?
Yes.
This is your problem.
The Malaysians will have to decide. And I made it quite clear. I went in with the agenda for reform. And I made it quite clear. And the people know that, the party leadership were aware of that. On the issue of corruption, on the issue of independence of the judiciary, they were aware of that. Even the chief judge who was sacked, dismissed, he was aware. He came to the trial and expressed support for me because he knew that within the government there was an attempt by me, not probably that pronounced or strong, effective enough, but he knew for a fact that I was not part of that conspiracy to remove the chief judge.
So you've changed entirely then, because you stood in a government which backed the Internal Security Act.
I did not back the Internal Security Act.
Well, you didn't do anything about it.
I did.
It's been in Malaysia for 40-odd years. You served in the government and in the ruling elite for 16 of those years and did nothing in public to repeal it.
I said in Parliament, it is on record in the handset, that it is time that we amend this. I wasn't successappul.
Amend? Surely it has to be withdrawn. Human Rights Watch is a violation of international standards.
We brought it up to the cabinet and the security apparatus in Malaysia. They did not agree on the repeal. So we said, okay, for a first step, we make sure that it is amended. And I was the only minister in the entire period, on record, they have an appeal in Parliament. I wasn't successful, but I did, publicly.
So, to be clear, you are now saying that as part of your political platform, and at the moment you are an informal advisor to your wife's party in Malaysia, but you are saying the Internal Security Act, which is, some would say, disfigured Malaysia's politics for so long, it has to go.
It has to be repealed.
And you, as leader of Malaysia, would get rid of it straight away?
Is committed to that, yes.
Let's talk about your political stance at the moment. You are part of a coalition, advisory capacity at the moment, but your wife has a party. There are other parties in this opposition coalition. And loosely, it seems that you believe there could be an alliance with the Islamic Malaysian political party. Now, is that going to work? Your wife's party is avowedly liberal, multi-ethnic, multi-religious. How can you form an alliance with the Islamic Party?
Why not? If the parties are committed to reform, to a free media, to independent judiciary, democratic, liberal, any party has the right to espouse whatever they want. But in that compact for democracy, the issue, the agenda, the contentious agenda of Islamic State is not there.
Well, this comes back to this issue of consistency in your career, because you began life as what's called by many Malaysians a firebrand young Islamic radical. Well, I don't see any evidence of that now. What's happened to you? What's happened to your belief in Islamic politics?
Did I call for application of the implementation of the Islamic State? I did not. What was a firebrand as a student leader when I was in the 20s?
So you categorically do not believe that Malaysia should ever be run by Islamic Sharia law, for example?
You must have a clear constitutional guarantee on the freedom of religion. You must have a clear undertaking by all political leaders.
So no Sharia law in Malaysia?
Some aspects of Sharia laws, if the people decide to have, they can have it.
But that's not the point.
Laws.
We're talking about individual liberties against the collective desire. There might be a majority for Sharia law, but there are clearly many people in Malaysia who would regard it as a fundamental invasion of their rights. Will you protect them and say here and now that Malaysia should never be run by Sharia law?
Yeah, that is why I say in this compact for democracy, you must have clear constitutional guarantee on the freedom of religion.
You've changed a lot, haven't you? Because you now describe Paul Wolfowitz, the neoconservative hawk in Washington, as one of your oldest and best friends. Indeed, he came to see you in hospital when you were released from prison.
Yes.
Now, many Malaysians cannot understand how Anwar Ibrahim, former firebrand Islamic student, can be best friends with Paul Wolfowitz.
Why not? I am against the war in Iraq.
Have you told Paul Wolfowitz
Yes,
that?
I told him, and I made a public statement. In fact, in that statement that I gave to the media, I was consistent. I said I'm against the war in Iraq. I said it here, I said it in Washington, I said it to Paul Wolfowitz.
But do you still want to be a bridge?
He is not my enemy.
But do you want to be a bridge between the neoconservatives and the Bush administration and Muslim countries like Malaysia?
I don't want to be pretentious of what my role can be, but I'm trying my best to engage. The Muslims must make the necessary changes themselves. The most corrupt are in the Muslim countries.
The unfortunate thing for you is...
I don't think we could apportion the entire blame to Washington. But we must be able to be credible, to be able to criticize and disagree with Washington in many things, in many of the excesses, arrogance, and also abuses, including in Iraq.
The unfortunate thing for you is that you seem determined to build a new political career in Malaysia. You want to be a unifying figure, but your positions don't seem to add up. On the one hand, you've told Washington that they must listen more to the Muslim world and Muslim voices. On the other hand, by befriending people like Paul Wolfowitz, you've lost the support of your own party back home in Malaysia.
Well, that is what you suggest, Stephen. I'm in touch with them. They ask me, and I say, why should I lie?
Well, they disowned you on that position, your support of Wolfowitz.
No, the deputy president of the party says we disagree with him on that point. I mean, this is a democratic party. They cannot disagree with me on some points. I mean, but when I ask him, why must we disagree with me when I say he's my friend?
Final question. Will you go back to Malaysia? You say the party still wants you. You say you have the ambition. Will you go back? And will you be Prime Minister?
That's where my home is. That's my
and will you be Prime Minister?
Whether I be Prime Minister, I cannot decide what I want to be. I mean, it's the people that decide. But right now, I'm busy elsewhere. There's a different agenda right now.
Anwar Ibrahim, thank you very much for being on Hard Talk.